And welcome. It's been a few months. It's been several months. It's um, I'm Thomas,
I'm Shaggy.
and the reason why I've been absent is I took on a side job. Um, Basically, I was a glorified proofreader for a local tax business. That helped people prepare tax returns, e-file them, etc. And suffice it to say, you know, I didn't, see all the nitty gritty of certain things, but just enough to understand there's a reason why professionals exist. Good grief. But but you've kind of gone through a different transition at your place of work. Instead of enclosed cubicles, you can physically see the person next to you.
Yeah,
uh,
it's an open room environment. So it's since I'm on an agile team, the team I'm on is kind of embedded in the team that I'm on. So if you understand what I'm saying, I was on the payment services team, and then there's a billing team inside the payment services team. So I'm on both of those teams now, not just the payment services team. And primarily, I'm supporting the development of this new application for this project that Shelter Insurance is working on, something they call Say Insurance, which is going to be like a new company or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that or not. But we're using a lot of newer technologies, which is pretty fun. I got 16 gigs of RAM on the machine finally, so now that way I'm not running out of RAM every time I have a million things open. I have like 20. I used to never like to have many Chrome tabs open, and now I have like this afternoon I counted 40 Chrome tabs.
oh my.
And Chrome itself is probably using probably a gig and a half of RAM, and we're also using IntelliJ instead of Eclipse, which is really nice. IntelliJ is much more intelligent about keyword IntelliJ, much more intelligent about how it's handling its some of its processes. So like handling versioned code if you're doing a commit, or if you're pulling down code from some repository or something. It's a lot easier with IntelliJ to pull it and merge it and everything. It does a lot of these things on the fly right for you instead of when Eclipse, it's a little bit more choppy and clunky. I blame IBM. um, but, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Um, uh, on my birthday, towards my birthday, thanks to my dad, he had no idea what I was into nowadays. I said, well, this is the type of stuff that I like looking at nowadays. Um, and I got, this for those who are watching on the YouTube channel, the Raspberry Pi 3. I got like the ultimate kit from, what's their name again? I can't remember off the top of my head, but
was it Network 14?
No, it was a different one. It starts with a C.
I'm not familiar with that.
But they sell a bunch of other stuff too for embedded type stuff. But they included a Raspberry Pi 3, the micro SD card, which is already in here, the little case, the power supply, HDMI cable, an LED kit basically to program, a breakout board, that sort of thing. So in case you want to, do some, LED setup and programming just to practice. I haven't, for obvious reason, I hadn't had a chance to set it up yet. But between the seasonal work and the special lady in my life kind of and other things. I kind of been preoccupied. So uh, I may even try, but I may even try Windows 10 IoT Core on it. I haven't decided yet. I'll definitely do a. I'll definitely have a Linux distribution running on this on a regular basis. So, because I'm more interested in the workstation aspect of things than anything else, and the fact that it has 4 USB ports on it is awesome. So 4 freaking ports. So and I have dual monitors set up on my main workstation now. So um, I haven't set up all the monitors yet. I may set up a third monitor on the system. I don't know yet. I don't know if my power supply can handle it. It's only 300 watts.
Usually the monitors don't make too much of a big difference, as long as it's not like my monitor usually draws about 20 watts. I think this big 1440p monitor that I have, the higher resolution and the larger the screen size, that's gonna play a very big factor in the amount of power that it draws, because it's going to be the amount of pixels that are using power, that are switching colors and stuff like that. And so a lot of newer monitors are low power, basically lower power, and have power saving features, eco features, some companies call them. So usually it's not too big of a deal. And from the computer's perspective, it's not going to draw any power from the computer hardly at all, except for just a minimal amount for the signal to be changed. So it's wherever your monitors are actually plugged in, it's going to be drawing most of the power.
I notice where it might be an issue is if, say, and this is mainly on the Windows side of things, because the local business I was with, the guy discovered the magic of USB VGA adapters. This one compresses video to where it kind of, to where it, shoots to another monitor. So you can have several monitors set up in theory, except you're drawing directly from a USB port. If you're drawing from all of them, well, needless to say, one day his computer didn't power on anymore, and the little power button thing kind of had an issue, so I had to take a sharp object and just push down on it, and lo and behold, for 1 second it tried to come on and then it shut right back off, and I'm like, oh, his power supply might just be out. So and hopefully it was just a dud and everything else. And as I suggested to him, you might get a hub that plugs into a wall outlet so that you're not using all the power supply off your computer. But yeah, the reason why I don't have the USB adapters is they cost about, double digits per device, and it and performance is, for regular office work, you won't notice too much, but on it, when you start getting to higher end stuff, you can tell that stuff's being done in software, and except for on the main monitor, and boom, it's just that. So one of these days I'll get to experiment with DisplayPort, because you can daisy chain them. But other than that, I'm like, nope, I'll just have more connections off of a video card directly. Oh,
My monitor supports DisplayPort, and I have a DisplayPort cable, but I couldn't get it to work for some reason. Thankfully, it supports that and HDMI. I don't understand why. I
huh.
wasn't happy with DisplayPort. I even tried messing with physically changing selecting the protocol or port from the menu using the monitor, and that didn't help any. I'm not sure what was going on with that.
I the monitor on my right. I was I was in a Salvation Army store, the one in Warrensburg, and sure enough, they had the combo deals for like 12 to 15, depending on what monitor we're talking about. It's LCD monitor and all that good stuff. So I got some good deals on that. Um, I had to fight just to get that thing on, and 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 then of course I decided to get adventurous and just do a fresh install of a beta of the new Ubuntu. So I'm still technically in their beta at their moment as we speak, but so far NVIDIA drivers are working and multi-monitor is working. So for the time being, I'm happy. So, but I just had to fight the other monitor a couple of times just to stay turned on, then bam, it turns on. I'm like, thank goodness. So that's pretty much where I've been at so far, except for maybe this recently. Last week I got this, and I didn't have to do a down payment, and because of where I'm at, I can get a 20% discount on the phone bill. So I of course am paying for the device monthly, but the first bill is horrible, but that's to be expected. Was your bill over $100 when you went to AT&T first time around?
The first time around, it was around 80 something, I think 85, 84, $85, and then it's finally dropped down to about 60 something a month. But I'm not paying for very much data. I was originally on a 3 gig plan, and they doubled it from 3 gigs to 6 gigs. So I get 6 gigs every month plus whatever I roll over from the previous month. I mean, I don't use it too often, but it is nice. I do have LTE now, so that's really handy.
Like the last phone I have, well, I technically still have it with me. That number is still active till like the end of the month. I had to do surgery on it basically to make sure that the SIM card didn't get loose with the contacts, because that's why I was getting the SIM card errors. It was a design flaw on the part of ZTE. They messed up on that one. Didn't help that I put it in my pocket, and it kind of warped a little, but and ironically, where I work had this available yet, and as you can see here, it's the time I can do this, and then I can do this, and it shows the time still, which comes in handy.
Nice.
Yeah. The battery is not removable, but on the top you can take out the SIM card and put, or that's where you SIM card's stored, but micro SD card is stored there as well. I'm probably going to get a new micro SD card, and I'm not going to adopt it as internal storage because that would degrade performance of the phone. I just would like additional storage for pictures and things like that. Today I ordered an OtterBox for it because I called everywhere I could think of in town, and they're like, we don't have any S7 cases. The ones that Walmart did have initially, they didn't move too quickly, but they moved. They're gone now. So yeah. So I just ordered an OtterBox Defender with and added the little belt clip to it, so that belt holster, so I can keep it on my person because I use Walmart Pay now, and that's convenient. Have you seen that yet?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't messed with it yet.
Um, Basically, it requires a Walmart.com account. You sign up for it. You assign a form of payment. Associates can add their discount cards to it by going to a certain web address and entering the necessary information. And it attaches that to your Walmart account. And Walmart Pay, you set up a PIN for your device. When you go to finish and pay, whether it's a self-check or a regular register, you go into Walmart Pay, you use your phone's camera to scan a QR code. This isn't Google Pay or Apple Pay where NFC is used. Actually, I think it's more secure.
Using just the QR code?
Yeah, it might be a little bit better doing that. And then if the cashier on their end has to hit the appropriate button, no receipt is printed. You get an e-receipt. You can go on your merry way, unless you have insufficient funds or something's messed up with your payment selection type, and bam, you're on your merry way. It's so now I, in theory, don't have to pull my wallet out and fumble with things. So I was one of the few that tried it, and some of the veteran cashiers may not necessarily be a fan of it because it's just another thing that they have to learn, which I can understand that frustration. But yeah, it's I plan on doing a lot with this. I've been very careful with it because I'm waiting on a case to come in, and I'll clean the screen off before I put the case on, all that good stuff. But I kind of switched to Verizon for the same reason that you switched to AT&T. You needed better coverage. Like you said you had LTE even.
Yeah, I have LTE now. I didn't originally. I had just regular HSPA Plus or whatever it was.
Was that with Family Mobile or?
Yeah, those were Family Mobile.
Wow.
Yeah, that's been about, see, I'm actually coming up on my year mark since I started working here at Shelter Insurance.
Wow.
So it's been that long at least. I'm too used to LTE now. I couldn't go back. I mean, I have latency every now and then where it just kind of, the network kind of just dies. It takes a few minutes for it to catch back up, and then it's just lightning fast again. But I'll take that over being just poor, crappy network.
Yeah, because like the phone that I had was Straight Talk. While it used Verizon towers, the flaw aside, you're throttled to a lower speed. If there's high call volume, you're deprioritized. And when you have to get a hold of family members because they need your help for something or some reason or another, that's not a good thing. And over the summer, I want to be able to do website related stuff while I'm on lunch, and it's kind of hard doing it just off of a phone. I can turn this to a mobile hotspot and boom, get to work on something and be done with it. I'm on their medium 3 gig plan because I'm connected to Wi-Fi, and my first bill's over 120. By the way, I was just like, oh, this is no discounts applied yet.
Well, and you're paying. You didn't pay, but just did a down deposit on your phone, right?
I only paid sales tax on the phone, and thanks to the e-gift card for Walmart that I got through Screenwise Trends panel, I only had to pay like a few cents out of pocket just for the sales tax.
Really?
So I was like, yes.
Well, that's where part of your monthly bill problem is coming from, though, because you'll have to pay that device off over the course of your contract.
Yep.
So I'm assuming you have a 2-year contract.
No, they don't do the traditional contracts anymore. It's called like Verizon 24. You pay a little bit each month on your device, and you pay it off. If you terminate your contract, you are due the entire balance of the phone.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was the only option it showed for me, and that was pretty much it. But and another reason, by the way, that I got like the S7, I was going to just try the Note 5, but I was like, you know what? I can stick with the Note 7 for now and be done with it, or the S7, be done with it. Wait for a newer Note iteration to have expandable storage, because, yeah, I'm going to be a pain in the ass about that. Because maybe we want to go through our pictures before we put them on the cloud.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like something that's very user friendly.
And this thing, I don't have it, right here at the moment. It's on the other side of the room. There's a little thing that you plug into the bottom of your phone, and you have a full USB port.
Nice. I've got a little adapter somewhere, too. Aha. Got this adapter that can plug into my phone, and it becomes a full-size USB port.
Yep. USB to go, which I saw all kinds of things you can do with it. You can plug a keyboard into it. Hell, you get the right adapter cable and add to your adapter, you can plug it into a television if you really wanted to. Or some type of docking station that lets you attach a keyboard, mouse, and maybe a monitor or something. Possibilities are endless. Like, that is cool. And like I said, I don't know what I'm going to do with the old phone. Once I may undo the surgery and try to go through the whole replacement plan thing and say, look, this is a design flaw. I've looked this up. This is a design flaw on the part of ZTE. I don't have the original box for it anymore, but I have everything else. I need my money back, because I had to switch to different carriers because I am not dealing with this anymore, just to see if I can get some of my money back from them.
Yeah.
For that phone. Because Straight Talk, they don't support updating the firmware for Android phones.
Really?
Yep, they will not do it. Like that phone that I have, if you were to buy one now today off the shelf, it'll have a newer version of Android already on it.
Huh.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense at all.
It's laziness.
And yeah, probably because they don't have a very large team to port Android to their particular product. I'd be willing to bet.
And in reality, they could have the manufacturer do it for them, but who knows the reasoning behind it. Oh, I heard something.
Yeah, I was checking this flash drive because I was trying to read it from my phone. I think I might have formatted it in a particular way so I could boot to it at one point.
Oh wow.
I'm not sure.
Um, but yeah, this thing. That's why I'm using this little cheapy stylus thing so that my fingers touch that screen as little as possible. By the way, if you like remote control, New Team Viewer lets you control your Android phones remotely.
Really?
Yeah, there's an app called Android or Team Viewer Host that you install onto your phone. If you open it up, it'll tell you to install an additional thing that's basically a module from the Google Play Store, dependent upon your model of phone and if it's supported. So I've been able to, remotely text, well, it's technically texting from that phone or whatever, but I'm doing it remotely. It'll show you in the dashboard the CPU usage, the amount of RAM you're using.
That is actually pretty wicked.
Yep. You can even hit a tab that shows your apps installed, and you can even hit uninstall on some of them. So
really, wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, that is so cool, and it even supports Chrome OS now. So you can add it to Chrome, and from there, it's it's pretty amazing. So and the battery on this charges fast, but if you're not careful with what you do, it will drain pretty quickly. So but it's a high-end Samsung, that's to be expected. It has the power save mode to where it turns a bunch of stuff off, leaves essential apps available on a simplified screen, black and white, grayscale basically, and it'll last a very long time. So and your screen is bigger than mine, which I get to have screen envy again, but that's okay.
You mean my phone screen?
Yes, it's bigger than mine.
How big is the S7s? 5.2?
Yeah, thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, mine's a little bit bigger. It's a 5.5-inch screen.
Yep.
I've been looking. The next phone that I might get, I don't know. I think I'm going to go back to a Sony phone again, just because I love the design of Sony's phones. Minimalistic, and when it comes to the UI and everything else that gets installed, they have a few specific things, but it's fairly minimal. But they have one called the Sony Xperia Z5 Premium, which has a 4K screen on it. It's what Sony calls a 4K triluminous display, and it's able to upscale photos to 4K, photos and videos to 4K.
That is insane.
It's absolutely ridiculous and not very practical, but I still want it.
No, that's pretty much insane, but pretty cool. But and this is running the latest Android that's available.
So you're running in 6.0?
Marshmallow, actually.
6.0.
Yep. Like the first thing that happened when I brought it home, it said, "Hey, you have an update for it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, because I check for a new update every now and then. It'll say it's already as up to date as it's going to get. 6.0.1 Android security patch level, February 1st, 2016.
Nice.
So
I get security patches, but I'm still stuck on 5.0 on Lollipop.
And part of the reason why I'm a big stickler about updates for firmware is because of the whole stage fright vulnerabilities that they have to constantly patch against. And I'm like, I don't like the idea of somebody remotely controlling a phone without my permission.
Yeah.
Or jacking with something. So I, don't do that anymore. Plus, if I have something like this, using it as a mobile hotspot, as opposed to the prepaid jetpack that only does LTE and doesn't drop down to a different signal if it's not available, this probably will. So I may test it at Mom's tomorrow if I get an opportunity, and it's probably going to work just fine. So that's the main reason I have Verizon, because where one of my family members lives, Verizon works best in that area. Out in towards Leeton, Chilhowie, Verizon works well. Pardon?
Middle of nowhere, right?
Oh God. Yeah, pretty much. But well, some people prefer nowhere. I'm not one of them, but that's all right. So, but in a couple of billing cycles, the bill will not be as painful. I have plans to kind of maybe pay ahead a little bit on the device itself to kind of, because cutting it in half might help.
Oh yeah.
Cutting it in the third might help, and if there's a Note 6 that comes out, I'll be like, you know what? Let's see if I qualify for it. Well, it had to be available before I can try to upgrade. Because I kept waiting, nope, no Note 5 at the store that I work at. But then I saw the S7 and I was like, wait, you know what? I want something with expandable storage anyway, so screw it. Going with that. But so I it may be a day or two before I get an opportunity to try any of this stuff, but I'm kind of excited. I'm still in the middle of rearranging stuff to where I can set up more computers. I'll have to set up more fans because it's going to start getting warmer. So, and air conditioning doesn't reach this room as well as it could, but no complaints. I have plenty of room. So anyway, you mentioned updates at work. What else have you been up to?
Well, not much really. I've put, let's see, how many hours have I put into Fallout 4? 280 according to Steam.
Oh my goodness.
So I put a fair amount of time into that. Gotten back into Minecraft a little bit. I got into Civ 5 a little bit too. So I've played a fair amount of video games. I've been messing with some newer things at work, newer technologies. So I'm trying to do a little more research of that here and there.
Have you researched more on the whole what's it called, XConnect from AMD? No, not XConnect. It's something Connect, where you take the right type of cable, plug it into a USB Type-C, and you plug it into a box that has a full-on AMD video card installed. I thought you were mentioning something about that.
No, I haven't, but they do have something called XConnect.
I don't remember if it was you who mentioned it or if I just stumbled upon it by accident.
You may have stumbled upon that because that doesn't look familiar. I'll have to look at that.
They're this is one time where AMD teamed up with Intel and decided to standardize this to where other manufacturers can, use this.
Okay, I see what it is. It's 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 probably something that way. If you order like a laptop like the Razer Blade Stealth, it comes with what I forgot what Razer calls it, but it's an external box that you plug into the wall that has a graphics card sitting inside it. And this AMD X Connect, if you have an AMD card sitting in there, it's supposed to help with the bandwidth and connecting over Thunderbolt 3 via either a Thunderbolt port, which is basically a display port, or USB Type-C, which is, if I'm not mistaken, most things now are running on, if they're using USB Type-C, it's USB 3.1, which is not quite double the speed of 3.0, but it's definitely faster.
Yeah, and so like somebody could take a modern day Ultrabook, attach it to a box like that or something similar, and at home and get full on graphics production or whatever they want to do. It won't be as nearly as powerful as that thing sitting in a desktop, but it'll be light years ahead of where you were at. So
it'll be limited by the bandwidth on your connection between that box and then your machine. And usually, since if you have the graphics card installed in the system, the PCI Express version 2.0 is so ridiculously fast, running at by 16, which is what they refer to, which is X16, so a full width of the slot, which is it's basically like 16 pins. I mean, or 16 sets of pins. It can run any PCI Express slot, full width, can run it either by 1, by 2, by 4, by 8, or by 16. And that's basically, that's the total bandwidth out of the total of what's available for that thing, which will cut it down. But it usually never affects graphics cards all that much. But if you have a graphics card installed in a box externally running through Thunderbolt, you probably have a little bit of latency in that, but it won't be much.
And this box that I saw, there were external ports on it and everything, so you could treat this as a sort of a glorified part of a docking solution, which
essentially that's what it is for gaming.
Which that kind of excites me. And in preparation for more advanced stuff, all my operating systems that I'm running now are 64-bit on the ones that are running at the moment on the main systems. So I'm looking like I reinstalled Windows 10, but I put the 64-bit edition on this desktop behind me. I'm running 64-bit Ubuntu on this one because I'm like, well, that way I at least can utilize every piece of RAM from, the video card to the system memory without as much issue. So, but yeah, I still have a lot to work on and do. I just haven't had the enthusiasm or the opportunity to. So now that tax season's officially over, I can, at least for my part of things, I can now just focus on that and other projects over the summer. But you've tried overclocking, had to back up a bit before it went up.
I had my machine, the one I'm sitting on right now, which is my gaming machine. I had it overclocked to 4.4 gigahertz, and it was running fairly stable. I had to mess with poor voltage on the processor a little bit for it to be stable, so I wouldn't have rounding errors and some things like that. But once I got it up to 4.4 gigahertz, I had no issues up until it started getting warmer again outside. And it got pretty warm out a couple weeks ago, and my PC just shut down. I was like, what the fuck? So, and my liquid cooling exhausts the heat out the top, so I just put my hand over it, and I felt it, and I was like, that is ridiculously hot. So I booted the machine back up right as it was sitting like that, and the processor was running like 60, 65 degrees, which is what it does at full-blown load. So it was just getting too hot for it, so I had to back it down and make sure I had some airflow in this room, and it's fine again.
Oh yeah.
I also reapplied thermal paste at one point, so I got this little tiny tube of thermal paste here.
Have you had a chance to try Ubuntu on Windows yet? The Bash shell on Windows?
No, I haven't. I'm running a stable version of Windows. I get all the emails for the Insider program, but I haven't signed up for taking in the betas and stuff like that. I don't want to break my machine.
Yeah, it's apparently coming upon it'll be in the anniversary update, and that's when the offer for Windows 10 upgrade for free expires. So, which those who are curious, you can actually, in theory, order Windows 7 keys at a discounted price, and use those. You do an install of 10. You go to change your license key, and you pop that in there, and a few other steps, and it'll be like, hey, you want to upgrade this or blah blah blah. I think you can actually use it to do a fresh install, or you can convert, like, say, Home Edition to Pro Edition, which, if you want to mess with Microsoft's Hyper-V type stuff, you have to have Pro anyway. And it's best if you run 64-bit, because I tried doing that on 32-bit, and it just it wouldn't work at all. so but yeah, you have to turn on developer mode too. So
yeah, I was just looking at that,
because like how this thing apparently works is, these are native binaries that are running. Windows has a subsystem that's translating API system calls to and what have you. So that's similar to how Wine operates on Linux and similar type systems. Just a translation layer and things like that. And it's actually, people did benchmarks, and as long as there's not a lot of disk IO, performance is virtually the same. It slows down if...
It's not even a translation layer, really. It's actually just Linux embedded inside Windows.
Pretty much.
It's the difference here is that it's kind of tweaked and modified a little bit so it can work with Windows. And I don't think there's a Windows kernel involved, but there's no such thing as a virtual machine in this case. It's not running in a Linux container. It's not virtualized in any manner. It's not running native inside Windows.
It's not Cygwin either.
Nope, it's not Linux code compiled for Windows. It's just Windows and Linux, like, as a sandwich, essentially, running beside each other, but Linux running inside Windows. So it's that enables the performance benefit. But yeah, I've seen those benchmarks when it comes to the I/O, and I'm not sure what the deal is with that. I'm assuming it's probably because it might be a certain Linux system call or something dealing with handling files that's causing a problem.
Because somebody argued that the concept of this is not new, that Microsoft, during the NT days, had a Unix subsystem for Windows so that people could use POSIX compliant stuff with it. Similar to how OS2 had a subsystem that allowed you to run Windows 3.x Program Manager on top of OS2. Which I've actually seen in action years ago, and I'm like, huh, this is neat.
Yeah, there's supposed to still be a. They've done a Unix subsystem in the past, and some of the stuff is still there. You can still use it. Like if you run like list commands like ls or some other key, depending on your version of Windows, it'll work.
Yeah, like I said, there's people who are excited, people who are just skeptical as all hell, going, there's an ulterior motive. I watched one of the developers for one of the people from Microsoft at their build conference still having to do the whole spiel of Windows is not going away, we're just going with a works best with Windows approach on this, but this is available, blah blah blah. And I'm like, even now you still have to work on people and alter their perspective and say, look, no, does Microsoft truly love Linux? I'm not sure. They probably like the idea of not having to reinvent the wheel so much anymore, because they use that in Azure a lot, so that they don't have to.
I'm starting to think that it's just it's not that Microsoft is trying to take over market share, because they still have a large share of the market. They have 80-90% of the market wrapped up in Windows-based PCs. But I think it's a combination of the fact that they're trying to not reinvent the wheel, and they're also trying to enable features with Windows 10 to allow developers to take advantage of certain applications that are available in Linux that aren't available in Windows. For example, Bash. Bash is extremely powerful, and without installing Cygwin or there's another version, I forgot what it is, but it comes bundled in with Git for Windows. If you download Git from the internet, right, and it'll install Git Bash. It's essentially the same, except it's tweaked in a way so it works correctly with Windows. But this new implementation is a lot more native, so there's no difference from a user perspective. If you open up this Bash prompt, it's there you go. So
and they have noted it's not perfect. They still got to work on some stuff with it, but and plus there's Apple, of all reasons, is also a reason that they're doing this as well, because Bash is available on OS 10. Other Unix tools is available OS 10, and Apple has inadvertently been cutting into their share of the development pie, because you see a lot of developers with an Apple at conferences because of the Unix tools that are available for it. How many apples have you encountered?
When I went to SIGC, the conference there in Kansas City, there were more Apple devices there than there were Windows devices. There were still some Windows devices, just because of the permeation in the market. But more and more, I'm seeing more and more tools and things just using Linux instead of Windows or Apple, just because it's free. And like, for example, some of the newer applications that we're developing for this new project that I'm working on, a lot of these things are running on Linux boxes, and I'm actually managing a lot of the things that are on some of these. Deploying the applications, configuring the server so it works correctly, just logging into the server to look at a log for an application, doing some certain things to and some of our development, stuff like that. And it's just, I don't see why more places aren't using Linux. I mean, I really wish I could use it for my desktop at work. It would make me so much more happy, and I feel like I'd probably be more productive. Or at least let me install Windows 10. But since the company I work for, the security team and just their outlook on security is just so, how do I put this delicately, backwards, just so backwards when it comes to, and regressive. For example, I have to change my password every month.
And an article came out recently saying, hey, this is actually not secure. This is less secure and can cause more problems. And I can understand the fearfulness. It's because they're not familiar with something, and there's too much. There's paranoia for all the wrong reasons. Anymore, and I'm discovering that there's probably holes in, say, Walmart's network security. But the main vectors of attack is social engineering anyway. You call a store and try to scam them into sending you $2,000 through the MoneyGram service as a test transaction. Make sure everything's quote unquote working okay. That's pure plain social engineering. So, that vector of attack is probably more effective than anything else. But yeah, I understand why they're fearful of something like this. They may not be familiar with it. Like they may not know how to use a Linux-based system or network it properly.
See, that's the thing, though, is that all of our applications are running in isolation, essentially, as a VM image. So right there, you already have one layer of security. We have all these firewalls and all these other security things that will prevent people from accessing things from outside. Like, I can't remote into my desktop. I can't even remote into my work machine unless I have some specific software installed with some specific things enabled, and I have to send a request to get it done and stuff like this. And they're just so
bureaucratic.
It's a combination of bureaucratic, and they're just archaic with a lot of their practices. Because when they were starting out, we still run mainframe applications. We use DB2 for a lot of things. We're just now moving towards things like LUW, which is basically DB2, but it's on Linux, Unix, and Windows. That's what the LUW stands for. And they're finally kind of moving away from using DB2. And for some of our things, we're using more of a document store kind of application. So we're using MongoDB, which is open source. So, well, and another requirement, something I've had to work on for some of our Linux boxes that I manage, or hope to manage anyway, I have to add some stuff from a requirement from our security team for, get this, antivirus.
Right.
Antivirus on Linux.
the only time you would need that is if you were setting up something that would eventually hit a Windows machine for like transmission of files, and you're wanting to set something up to kind of catch something on the way there if it's something malicious. Other than that, antivirus on a Linux-based system is not necessary.
Well, yeah, even then, it has to be written in such a way that it can affect a Linux system. And those viruses aren't written in that way. Some are. There are some out there, and it's getting more prevalent, but it's more work to make sure it can hit and affect not just Windows, but also Linux and Unix and OS X.
Right. Um, and and as time goes on, it might be an opportunity to make a presentation or something and say, look, I understand where you're coming from. Here's why you're wasting your time with this. If this was something that was you're setting up to intercept something that was on the way to, say, normal Windows machines that people at, like, receptionists and what have you are utilizing, then that would make sense. But most of these things, um, the only worst that they're going to do is tank a single machine. The viral aspect is defeated as soon as a machine is tanked because it's right off a network and everything else. But the vulnerabilities they need to look out for more than anything, and even on Windows, viruses aren't as prevalent anymore. It's more Trojan than anything else. Spyware more than anything else.
Spyware, and there's also ransomware out there that's pretty popular now too.
Yeah. Viruses don't have quite the effect that they used to. Yet viruses could screw up a lot of things, but ransomware, you can get money out of people in illicit ways. Trojan horses, you can swipe credentials for logging in to various things. The attacker gets something out of that instead of just messing up productivity for workers. Because, like I said, I've noticed more and more, social engineering, Trojans, and basically spying type stuff is more of the vectors that are being used than anything else. I think there used to be viruses that could affect hardware. I think there still are malware that can kind of affect hardware by trying to flash your BIOS, but
it's not as common anymore. And there's things that AMD and Intel both, and anyone that's developing ARM-based processors, like, for example, TPM, which Intel puts into their Core i5, Core i3, usually Core i5 and Core i7 processors. The V Pro editions all have a TPM, or Trusted Platform module, that basically helps with some encryption and some other things that make sure nothing's trying to tamper with the hardware. It can make it a little bit more funky for a user aspect, but for the most part, it never will affect the user, which is nice.
Right. And for those who want to have, like, say, core boot on a machine with an i7 instead, I think there is an OEM out there that basically has worked with Intel to kind of let them remove or kind of bypass the TPM, blocking that from happening. So if people want core boot on things like that, they can vote with their wallet. Um, I can't remember which ones they were off the top of my head, but I think it Pure is in their name or something like that.
Hmm.
But, um, but yeah, it's mainly life and a few tech updates has been what I've been up to. The only like I said, the only thing that I need to do with maybe the two machines I have is upgrade the power supplies in both of them. They're only 300 watts, and upgrade the video cards to where they can take more monitors because yeah, and start setting up servers and things like that just because I can. I'm also considering setting up a homebrew router because I saw it on Ars Technica. I looked at the thing. I said that two Ethernet ports is not enough, but they were just experimenting. It was cool what they did with that. By the way, that was pretty
Yeah,
neat.
I read fairly far into that article. It's really interesting. I might do something with that in the future too, because my router that I currently have, it's I don't think it's quite as robust, and with you maybe like a uh, Raspberry Pi or something in conjunction with some other hardware, I could probably work something together, and I may do that in the future. Because then, if you have like the newer Raspberry Pi 2 or the 3, I don't think there would be a difference in using one over the other. But you have a quad core instead of a single core. So you can, anytime packets are coming through, you can run that as multiple threads, so you can get those things processed through faster. So it's not necessarily going to make your internet speed faster, but it'll make the router much faster and work much more efficiently.
Oh yeah. Plus, plus you can do things like set these since this has like Wi-Fi built in. You can set it up as an access point if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm still going to use the other Pi. I don't know for what yet. Um, may just experiment with it and use it to test just to test like custom WordPress themes on a custom WordPress install on a local level, just so I can, because the look of the site's starting to get stale, and and I looked at Infowars with their layout, which yeah, they have a bunch of kooky nonsense on there, but their layout's fantastic. And doing a little digging, um, they used they used kind of a template to they used an online thing that made a cookie cutter template for them to alter later on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, what can I do with this? I can't remember what it's called. That's the bad part. Uh, and this is why I like multi-monitor now, by the way, because
Oh
now
yeah.
now I can move this over and I can look up. I can actually look up uh, uh, I can look I can look up the name of their theme because underscores.me. Um, thank goodness for my theme detector. Uh, underscores.me. Basically, it's create your underscores based theme. And it says I'm a starter theme called underscores or underscores if you like. Meant for It's meant for basically altering, so don't use the parent theme. Basically, it's bare bones stuff, and it has like a helpful 404 template, things like that. And I've been thinking about, you can name your theme, add a theme slug, author URI, description. There's even a checkbox that says underscore sassify. So so because I'm thinking about doing something along those lines and just messing with it until it looks just right, and then applying that and see what happens. But I haven't figured out what I wanted to do on that yet. But I guess the idea is to mess around with it until it looks the way you want it to. So I don't know. It may take a long time before that happens, but yeah. But the multi-monitor will help with the podcast because I can look over notes and talk at the same time instead of switching windows and go, oh, let me switch back. And if I can help it, I may have a third monitor and have the main monitor be in the center and all that good stuff.
Now that I use 2 monitors at work, I really need a third because I've got so many things running right now all at once that at one point today I was breaking 10 gigs of usage, and having 3 things running in tandem and trying to compare each of them on 2 monitors gets to be a bit of a bitch because I've got one window drug across both of my monitors, which are a little bit wider than my 1440p monitor, even though I have actually, from the computer's perspective, I have more real estate on this single monitor than I do both of my monitors at work. I have one window drag across all 3 or 2 of them, and then one maximized in each. And it was really difficult to manage and switch between them since I've got so many things running all at once. It was a pain in the butt. I really need a third monitor. My PC at work can't support it, though. That's all.
And speaking of work-related stuff, probably the reason why they are so paranoid is because this is insurance that we're talking about here. If something goes wrong, major lawsuits can happen, and they have to do everything in their power to kind of mitigate that. So it's gonna, moving to something that makes more sense is probably going to take some time. Probably a lot of time.
That's part of it. But there's other things involved too. It's just that they're archaic in their thinking and their outlook when it comes to security. Because there are some things they could loosen up on a lot that it's completely unnecessary.
Which, yeah. But yeah, I can see why they're doing it. And like I said, hopefully things just kind of get more interesting and better. I'm assuming they know that they have to do some changes as a company because they rearrange workspaces to kind of make it work a little bit better, communication wise.
There's some things that they're getting a little bit better at, and other things they're just still kind of got a little bit further to go.
Yes, the stubbornness, and then finally, show them enough from actual experts saying, look, this is no longer a valid attack vector. This is the emphasis now. Like a friend of mine who used to work on campus. Um, he at least got to run whatever he wanted on his workstation, which was dual monitor, and he ran Kubuntu and I think VMware. He ran some version of Windows Server or something inside of a virtual machine.
Huh. Wow.
Yep. So it's kind of fascinating on that, but Windows and like set, and you mentioned 7 Enterprise. That's trying to see when their support end date for that is, because probably when that comes to an end, they'll probably start considering migrating.
Hopefully it'll allow me to get something else other than Windows installed on my device. It'd be really nice.
Yeah, their extended support end date's going to be 2020, January 14th, 2020. That's for all of them. Professional.
Windows 7?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, because like Service Pack 1 is probably, it says support ends 24 months after the next Service Pack release or at the end of the product's support cycle, whichever comes first. But yeah, from professional end to embedded systems, home premium. They have a 7 home basic, though I've never seen that in the wild.
I used it on my little netbook, which I think I gave to you, didn't I?
Okay. So I'm wrong. I have seen that then. Never mind.
I wiped it though. I ended up putting Ubuntu on it at one point, which ran actually okay. I mean, other than the fact that it only had, originally it had 1 gig of RAM and then upgraded it to 2. Just still didn't seem like enough.
Okay, now I know why I said I didn't see BASIC in the wild. I'm thinking of Windows 7 Starter, which didn't really let you change your wallpaper and other stupid stuff.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
But yeah, 2020, the extended support date is pretty much going to be over. So it's less than 4 years out. And about less than 2 years, all the self-checkouts at Walmart are probably going to have to get updated to a newer Windows 7 or new Windows-based embedded type stuff, because POS Ready 2009, their support ends in 2018, if what I read was correct. And it's based on XP. It's the nitty-gritty. It's not licensed to run Office or similar applications. It's just enough to get the job done. Yeah. Which I'm like, why don't they just run Linux? Because I see a Cygwin prompt every time it reboots, and I'm like, all right, it's logging into some Linux-based server, probably a virtualized server somewhere. So But yeah, so in other words, we've been living our lives, doing various things. Um, my current significant other is getting a new job. She starts Monday, so she's going to be in the whole of what am I going to do with this extra money? Oh, I know, I will have a place of my own, um, and we plan on looking, as of this recording, which is Tuesday, April 19th. Will basically be um, looking at places tomorrow, and I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there to point out, hey, this might not be a good idea. Look at that corner, it's sinking into the ground, that sort of stuff. Or, oh, look, there's a bunch of mold here. Not so sure this would be a good idea, especially if a landlord decides, let's not do that. And yeah, that fun stuff. Be like, yeah, let's not do that. So, um, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to. After that, after this I'll probably go to bed, catch up on some sleep.
I can't blame you.
And it sounds like you've been having fun with all sorts of projects at work, and hopefully it'll be interesting and fruitful. Um, it's cool that they're using virtualization. That's actually awesome.
Yeah. The big reason why they moved to having things virtualized was because at one point we had an issue with the power going out, and I think it was something to do with a loss of a ton of data, a combination of data loss, and they want the applications to be reliable. So it's a lot easier to spin up another instance on a virtual machine, especially with the new technologies we're using on our new projects. Like there's these things out there called Chef. It's called Chef, and basically you can use it in combination with something called Vagrant, or there's also other different ones out there if you don't use Chef. But Chef has some open source alternatives and open source technology that it uses. Essentially what it's doing is it'll spin up a virtual machine instance right then and there on the fly and install applications and configure it in such a way so it works with what you put on it. So like if you have an application that you're trying to deploy and you need like 7-zip to work with it, it'll do all of that for you if you write all these things that are called cookbooks. And then inside these cookbooks are things called recipes.
And I think it's because of Open Source Weekly or something like that on the Twit network. I've actually heard of this. That's very interesting. Either that
It's
or
really fun. I'm the guy that's managing our chef cookbooks for our team. So
it was either that show or the Linux Link Tech show that I heard of this. So that I've heard good things about it. So, but the next episode will be number 100, and I'm trying to plan something special, including adding a custom bumper that's formulating in my head. One that's going to cause people to crack up, I hope, because a little bit of humor helps.
Oh,
yeah. Maybe one of the segments be Donald Trump bragging about his big what, and followed up by Hulk Hogan saying, "No, sir, I do not have a 10-inch penis." Yes, he actually did say that at that trial against Gawker. I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to tell him, look, when I'm in public, I'm in character from my days in pro wrestling. But Terry Bollea is a private citizen whose privacy was violated. Um, Terry Bollea does not have a 10-inch penis. And it's just like, even his attorney was like, seriously?
Well, and he's been known to just slip up and say stupid shit. I think he blames it on the fact that he used to be a pro wrestler, and part of that is a legitimate blame. But it's still, he's just shit just rolls out of his mouth. He's just in that case, and only in that case, he's not much different than Trump.
Yeah, pretty much. It's one of those cases where somebody who, like Jim Cornette, who wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of Hogan, was pulling for him because he didn't like a lot of the stuff that Gawker had been doing to other people, and he thought it was garbage that, from his perspective, people's privacy was being violated by these people, and they needed to be taught a lesson. And they royally screwed up by going way too far, because they're the reason why he is not with WWE at the moment. Because the racist things that he had said, he was on the verge of, never mind the fact he was on the verge of suicide. He was, depression, everything else. It was, and then Vince McMahon turns around and suspends a black talent for touching him. It was the most innocent thing, and I'm like, I don't get it, but anyway. What type of stuff would you like to do for episode number 100, sir? Because
that I don't know. There's just so much we could do and we could talk about. I mean, it depends on where we want to go. Do we want to go technology, or do we want to talk about just kind of what's happening in the world right now? Because there's been so many things go on since we talked lately. This podcast, so I mean the possibilities are endless. I think we need to talk it over with some of the other guys and see what they think.
I already asked Stephen Kelly. I may ask Kurt. I'll probably ask Curtis in the near future. I haven't gotten a response back. Work schedules and things like that. Hopefully something can be worked out, because that would be fairly cool. I think Curtis is back in Missouri for a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
That now that he's done with, I think I don't know if it's spring break or what. I thought because it sounded like he was traveling a little bit, but hopefully something can be figured out. For now, what'd you find?
Oh, nothing. I was just agreeing with what you said.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm getting sleepy. I think we've gone longer than we both anticipated.
Yeah.
So until next time, we'll see you or hear you or something.
See you guys later. Take it easy.
Take care.